When the governor of Maine, Janet Mills, defied President Trump in the Oval Office a few weeks ago, refusing to ban biological males from female sports, she told the president, quote, "See you in court." She got big applause from the liberals in her state, including the author Stephen King, who wrote, quote, "Makes me proud to be a Maine man." Common sense knows that King is still a Maine man, but the governor he's so proud of never quite made the courthouse because the University of Maine caved, saying it will not allow men in women's sports. And it seems there's a cave rave. Columbia University is also deciding to release itself from a $400 million federal funding freeze by agreeing to a list of Trump administration demands, including placing Columbia's Middle Eastern Studies Department under academic receivership. That's a smarty pants way of saying the program is no longer controlled by the faculty. We're seeing the oldest, wealthiest universities in the country cry uncle. I mean, they value their values, but they really value a few $100 million. Common sense thinks when it comes to progressive policies, watching colleges capitulate must be a nightmare, an absolute horror show. In other words, a tale fit for a Maine man, like Stephen King.
Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So a quick update on Maine and what's going on there. They have complied with Trump's executive order, or at least in the universities. And Trump is now demanding an apology from the state governor, Janet Mills. We all saw the exchange between Trump and Janet Mills at that meeting. And he was like, "Are you going to comply? Are you going to do it?" And she was like, "No, see you in court, see you in court. I'm following state law." Well, the universities are saying that they are going to follow federal law. They've always followed the NCAA rules, and they seem to really be cooperative now. They don't want to in any way be seen to be going against the executive order because they don't want their federal funding frozen. They don't want to lose their federal funding, up to $100 million, for example, that they've received. So yeah, a lot is at stake here. So today, President Trump demanded a full-throated apology from Maine Governor Janet Mills before his administration can settle its dispute with the state for defying his executive order banning transgender athletes from competing in women's sports. So the University of Maine system backed down earlier this week and promised to follow the executive order. Remember, the state had 10 days to comply, to come up with something, showing that they're cooperating with the executive order. And it appears that in many regards, they have done that. But now Trump is saying that their federal funding is still in jeopardy unless Governor Mills apologizes to him. Wow.
Your population doesn't want men playing in women's sports. So you better comply, because otherwise you're not getting any federal funding. See you in court. Every state, good, I'll see you in court. I look forward to that. That should be a real easy one.
So on Truth Social, Trump said the following: while the state of Maine has apologized for their governor's strong but totally incorrect statement about men playing in women's sports while at the White House Governor's Conference, we have not heard from the governor herself, and she is the one that matters. We need a full-throated apology from the governor herself and a statement that she will never make such an unlawful challenge to the federal government again before this case can be settled. Now, some people might think this is an ego thing, him demanding an apology. I won and I need you to acknowledge that. Some people may take it that way. But in all seriousness, the governor herself needs to show in no uncertain terms that she is willing to comply with this executive order. Because it's one thing if it's just the universities, but if the state governor is not on board with this, then what? So we need to know that all parties involved are willing to comply, because we don't want to, something to turn around later on and we still see this problem in Maine. So we need to know, we need assurances from the state governor herself that she understands that boys and men should not be competing in women and girls sports. I would find that very reassuring, and I think the people of Maine would find that very reassuring. Those who are not for this, who are not for men competing in women's sports, they would find it very reassuring if they know that the state governor is willing to comply with the federal law, and we're not going to get any surprises somewhere along the line, especially as federal funding is at stake here. So we know that an investigation was launched into Maine which determined that they were in violation of Title IX, a provision of the Civil Rights Act that restricts schools that engage in sex-based discrimination from getting federal funds. The probe put at least $250 million in annual federal funding for the state in jeopardy. This is a huge deal. And earlier this month, the Trump administration followed up and blocked the UMS, a network of 8 public universities in the state, from receiving funds from the Department of Agriculture. Then on Wednesday, the Department of Education, which Trump has since moved to dismantle, warned that the UMS had 10 days to comply with the administration's policy restricting transgender competition in female sports or lose funding. And as we know, they did comply, saying the University of Maine system has always maintained its compliance with state and federal laws and the NCAA rules, which the US Department of Agriculture also affirmed in a press conference released today. The UMS Chancellor, Daniel Malloy, said in a statement. So they've contacted Governor Mills for comment, no comment as of yet. And Trump also went on to say, I'm sure she will be able to do that quite easily. Thank you for your attention to this matter. In terms of protection for women and girls, when it comes to women's sports and women's spaces, applying pressure when it comes to federal funding appears to be working. In this situation, I feel the president's position is the right one. I don't know all the facts between Maine versus Trump, but it's common sense. Women should be able to play, practice, compete in their sport of choice without the possibility of being injured by a bigger, stronger opponent. Being said, I believe a major reason why people sour on the president is not his politics, but his attitude. If he kept the same policies, but conducted himself with more restraint, humility, and empathy and grace, he would possibly end up being the most popular, beloved president in the history of the US. Well, some people will say this is the sort of attitude that gets the job done. But it's not for everybody, is it? It should not be that easy. Once she refused to abide by the federal order, she is in violation. As such, there should be a huge penalty on her personally as well as her state. So some people are thinking that he's being too kind in this situation. I don't think he wants to strip states of their federal funding because there are huge consequences of that. When it comes to our education, that's funding for students, for children, for kids in school. So I don't think he takes pleasure in stripping them of their federal funding. But there has to be huge ramifications, otherwise they will continue to ignore federal law. They will continue to ignore the executive order, and we can't have that. What Trump is doing is basically broken windows policing to bring society back to norms, as Giuliani spectacularly did as mayor to restore New York City. So let me know what you think. Do you think she is going to apologize? She does seem pretty strong-willed, so I won't hold my breath. But at the same time, we do need reassurances from the state governor that she is going to urge her state to comply with the executive order and protect women's sports and protect women and girls once and for all. So let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Like, comment and subscribe. Take care of yourselves, and God willing, I will see you in the next video.